Welcome, I'm Paul, this is Dave. Today I have 10 Glitch in the Matrix and Supernatural stories for you. Maybe there is no spoon. Case file number 2526, written by Sonia. When you accidentally bend space-time just for fun. This is already my second glitch that happened on my own initiative, and exactly the way I wanted it to happen. So I was cleaning a building that day, and I would look at the house numbers of those buildings, of those entrances many times, because I've been obsessed with numbers and numerology since I was a child. The house numbers of those buildings, as I remembered them, were 9 and 7. I wasn't sure about the number 9, and it's not that important, and I definitely remembered the number 7 from the second entrance because I thought several times how cool would it be if it were 17 instead of 7. Because that's my date of birth. I didn't look at those numbers once, I looked at them many times, and I would always think how it would be if one day I came and saw 17 instead of 7. That was at a time when glitches were already happening to me for a while, and then I thought, I want 7 to turn into 17, and that's it. It wasn't something I just wanted to happen, it was something I decided would happen, because I know how the universe, reality, or whatever you want to call it, works. This is not something that is unknown to me, or some science fiction, because throughout my life, I simply manifest what I want, because I always have simply felt that it works that way. In order for something to manifest, there must be no doubt but a pure decision, and that was it. I simply sat down that day, decided that it will happen, that 7 will turn into 17 one day when I arrive. I simply enjoy such things because they always work for me, and it's like a kind of game. And one of the reasons why I've never been bored in my life. So I came to clean that building once a week, after having thrown my magic. I would look at the number on the building almost every week, and the number was the same, 7. I didn't bother about it or think about it, whether it would happen or not. I just waited for it to happen. Let's be clear, what happened this time has never happened to me in my life, and I've never tried to influence something like that, but as glitches started to happen to me, and after I realized that they happen to many people after they become interested in them, I decided that now I will make it a glitch, that I will do something different now, just because I like to try such things and see if they will happen. But despite the fact that I decided that it would happen, it's not that I really expected it to happen. This is pretty big. I didn't even think about whether or not it would happen, I just looked at the numbers when I was there. One day, after about 3 months, I come, look at the number on the building, and it's 17. What is fascinating to me now is that I was not surprised at all. But this time, not in the sense that I expected it, but in the sense, okay, it happened because it happens. At that time, I was totally occupied with some other things and thoughts, and what surprised me more was my lethargic reaction when I saw that this actually happened. I was neither shocked nor surprised. I looked at the number, saw 17, said to myself, wow, it happened, and went on cleaning the building as if nothing had happened. On the one hand, I couldn't believe that exactly what I wanted to happen happened, and on the other hand, I was preoccupied with other thoughts and didn't think about it at all for 3 days after. After 3 days, one afternoon when I was getting ready to go out, I sat down and said to myself, wait, that really happened? Is it really now? There's 17 instead of 7. After 3 days it hit me, and I couldn't believe it really happened. I couldn't wait to get there again to see for myself, because when something like that happens, even if you believe in such things, in glitches, or they happen directly to you, you are still surprised no matter what. And of course the next time I came there, 17. And even when you believe in something like that, and something like that happens to you, you ask yourself again, is it possible? Because it's so amazing. Now, after seeing 17 there, I naturally assumed that the number on the second entrance must have changed as well. And of course, number 19 was there now. I wasn't sure what the number on the second entrance was, whether it was 5 or 9, but I remembered 5. It was more and more fascinating to me what I was able to do, but at the same time I wondered, did I really do it? And of course, I started to be more and more fascinated because it is so mind-blowing. And I decided to ask my mom if she remembers the numbers of the entrance there, and I told her everything because she knows a lot about my paranormal stories. I was really curious if she remembered what the number was, and Mom says it was always 17. But those who know what I'm talking about know that this does not mean that I remembered wrongly, and that the number has always been 17, but that it's about shifting reality. In this reality, the number was always 17, it's true, but in the one where I looked at the number every day, for months, and came there for 2 years, there it was 7. No one can have such a weak memory, or be so crazy to think after everything. I imagined it. Because it's not about one glance at the numbers, it's about months of looking at that specific number. And that's why people should believe more in themselves, because only you know what really happened. There are people who will believe you, and people who think you're crazy. But that doesn't matter. If you know and feel that something strange happened, then it happened. Accept it, and try to explain it to yourself, because only the truth is important and liberating. Just to mention this, and how I realized that the number on the second entrance was 9 and not 5, as I remembered, was when I went there one day and saw that the house number of the house before was 15. So before the number of that house was 5, and the buildings were 7 and 9. But it's possible that the order went the other way around, and that I remembered well that the number of the building's entrance was 5 and 7, and the house number was 9. Who knows? Everything is possible. And I think we should believe that. A very cool little story, and it kind of reminded me of that TNG episode where no one has gone before, where their own thoughts were creating and manifesting reality. Now, I don't think we're all Wesley Crusher, where we realize space and time and thought are all one thing. I mean, maybe something close to that, but I think it's a bit deeper. Maybe if we're in a simulation, our own thoughts are directly interfacing with the server, and maybe that can have an impact if it's focused enough, to a certain extent. In this case, it's more like you willed yourself to cross into a different universe where the numbers were as you specified. So you didn't alter the physical properties of the building, you just willed yourself into a different copy of a universe, which is pretty cool, and you don't hear that very often. Of course, there's quantum immortality, but that's more specific and just something that happens to us. It's a mechanic, not a willed event. Case file number 2527, written by prestigious cover 494. No golfers, no balls, just the weirdest day of our lives. I grew up in a low-income area in London, early 90s. It was tough, but we had fun. Me and my friends used to get up to mischief a lot. One of our preferred ways to pass the time was to go to the golfy, albeit that just meant a climbing wall that separated our neighborhood from a golf course, and collect lost golf balls. I don't know why we did it, but hey, we were very young. And the fluorescent yellow balls were kind of cool to us. Anyhow, during one summer break from school, I went out and met up with my best friend. Nobody else was around that day, which was weird because usually the neighborhood was teeming with our friend group. I know that seems trivial, but the whole neighborhood was unusually quiet. Strange vibe, because I remember it was a perfect day. We wandered around talking for a while, and inevitably got bored. And he suggested a trip to the golfy to see if we could find any balls. So off we went on the short walk. We got there after a short walk. It wasn't far, but I remember that we just couldn't find anyone around. I don't know, it was bizarre to say the least. Like, we could hear normal neighborhood noises as you would expect, but we just never encountered anyone. I remember we commented on it being strange, and actually surmised that maybe all of our friends had the same idea as us, and would be at the golfy waiting for us. Not unusual given none of us had phones, and we would normally just randomly meet in a few places, most of which we had already been past at this point. So, we arrived at the wall that we usually scrambled over to get to the golfy. He hopped up before me and sat astride to pull me up. Once we were both up, we looked at each other perplexed. I genuinely remember to this day the confusion in his face. We looked over at the place we had been hundreds of times before, and it was different. Instead of a small wooded area that gave onto the golf course, it was a huge paved area full of rows of greenhouses, and odd-looking square areas that looked like they were meant for plants. Those greenhouses were not new, though. Matter of fact, they looked abandoned, old, and not taken care of. Most of them had plastic sheeting over the sides where the glass used to be, and they were flapping gently in the summer breeze. The squared areas had weeds and the sort growing out of them, likewise on the paving slabs that made up the floor. We sat there for a while, watching. We had no clue what to make of it all. Obviously, this was too good to be true in our minds, and once the initial surprise wore off, curiosity set in. We both hopped down and began to explore the place. But the whole area was just off, like it just didn't seem normal. I can't explain it to this day, but we were sticking close to each other, even though we were laughing and kidding as we went further in. We looked in the greenhouses, and they were just full of run-down equipment of some sort and overgrown with weeds and plants. After about 20 minutes of exploration, I remember we stopped and looked around, kind of in disbelief at how big this whole area was. We hadn't changed direction, and now in the middle of all of it, could neither see the neighborhood nor the golf course. This is when it got really messed up. As we stood there, my friend looked at me and said, "Can you hear that?" The look on his face was dead serious, and I stood still listening. "What?" I asked him back. He just put his fingers to his lips and listened more. Then I heard it. Like a really low hum. Like the type a high voltage of electricity makes? I don't know, something between a hum and a buzz. As we stood there, it got louder and louder, as if it was getting closer. But not from any particular direction, from all around us. We started a brisk walk back to where we came. The buzz kept getting louder, until we panicked and started to run. As we ran, and I mean full sprint, through these weird constructions, we started hearing something behind us. I can't explain it, almost like a mechanical noise, like not a human or animal. The plastic sheeting and the way the place was laid out made it impossible to see anything more than 10 or 15 meters, so we never saw what it was, but it was there, right behind us. We must have ran hard for maybe 3 or 4 minutes in pure adrenaline. And I remember getting to that wall completely empty, and using the last bit of energy I had left to clamber over it. Once over it, both of us threw up, probably from the fact we just sprinted so hard for so long. We made our way back through the neighborhood, and everything seemed normal again. People, cars, activity, etc. was business as usual. The messed up part is, once we explained what had happened to our friend group, they obviously all wanted to go see what we had found, and what had chased us. Understandably, because it sounded insane. The next day, a whole group of us, maybe 10 or 12, went back down to see the place. It wasn't there, and I swear we went up and down that wall for an hour looking for it. It just wasn't there. There was no way it was some other place. We only used that wall to get there, and given the sheer size of that area, even if we were off by 100, 200 meters, we would still see it. Nothing, literally nothing was there. Me and my friend occasionally spoke about it like, "Hey, remember that day?" But never really more than that. Then I guess life happened, and we went our different ways. Hell, maybe he'll hear this and recognize the story. Either way, only 2 of us knew about it until now. Freaking weird place. It almost sounds like a dark city. I won't spoil anything for that, but, watch the movie. It's a good movie. Case file number 2528, written by Golden Opossum. 4 hours, no memories, perfect Cabbage. My partner, our 10-year-old daughter, and I decided to make our go-to weeknight dinner. Roasted cabbage wedges, potatoes, and smoked sausage. You know the drill. Chop, season, toss in the oven. Total hands-off time, right? Usually 45 minutes max. We've done this a dozen times. We started at 6 p.m. sharp, preheated the oven to 450 Fahrenheit, chopped the veggies, talked crap, everyone at their station doing their thing. Everything felt normal. We even set a timer. But when the timer went off, the potatoes were done, and we left the cabbage in for another 10 minutes. Here's where it gets uncanny. We sat down at the counter to check our phones while waiting, and collectively froze. 10:03 p.m. All of our devices, phones, oven clock, microwave, agreed. 4 hours had passed. 4 hours! No, we didn't lose track of time. We didn't nap, binge a show, or leave the house. We were right there, chatting, stirring the sausage, turning the cabbage. It felt like 45 minutes tops. Our daughter kept asking, "Why is it dark outside?" And we didn't think much of it until we saw the clock. The kicker, the oven was working fine. Everything cooked to perfection, defying physics, defying logic, defying every roasted veggie law. Nothing was burnt to a crisp, like it had been cooking for nearly 4 hours. This one has me completely stumped. Somehow you were in a localized time glitch with the oven, which was still receiving electricity from the power plant. I don't know how this is possible. That's a hell of a glitch, and experiencing with the whole family. Whoa. My mind would be blown. I would still eat the food, of course, but... Case file number 2529. Written by One Fell Swoop 70. Fishing, fading, and freaking people out. A weird thing has been happening to me now for about 10 to 15 years, and I still can't find a logical explanation. So I thought I'd see if anyone else has been informed that they have disappeared. This first time this happened was several years ago while I was fishing at my favorite trout stream. My fiancée at the time, I'll call her Chloe, was with me, and she had recently broken her leg and was wearing a cast and using crutches. She was going crazy, being cooped up all day, and wanted to do something outdoorsy. So we drove to a spot, a place I know like the back of my hand, and she decided to sit on this large rock and read, while I went downstream along a path that runs right along the edge of the creek. At the end of this path, which is wide enough for just one person, is a small parking area for the Appalachian Trail. The distance between where I parked and the AT parking area is about 300 yards. After about an hour, I head back to the rock to check on Chloe and find that she is not there. I check the car, call out her name, but there's no sign of her. Thinking she may have gone into the bushes to use the bathroom or to stretch her legs, I return back the way I'd come and continue fishing my way down to the AT parking lot, where I find her crying hysterically. According to Chloe, she got called into work later that afternoon and was trying to find me to let me know that we had to go home. She said she had called out my name several times. I didn't hear anything, until she finally decided to come looking for me. Now, the weird thing is that I was fishing from the bank, standing on the path. I never waded into the water or crossed the stream. There's no possible way someone on crutches would have passed me without directly bumping into me. Yet she insisted that I was nowhere to be found. There have been other times when people are genuinely startled to see me, claiming that they had walked into a room seconds earlier and I wasn't there. Most recently, about a year ago, this happened while I was sitting in my office at work. I was in my chair, but not facing my desk. A coworker, who often uses my work computer to print things out, walked in and literally sat on me. She let out a blood-curdling cry and swore that the chair was empty. She was shaking and her face was white as a sheet, and she's one of the most reliable and trustworthy people I know. The chair was black and I was wearing a powder blue shirt and jeans, so it's not like I blended into the scenery. I've tried chalking it up to practical jokes, but 15 years is a long time to pull a prank involving multiple people in different locations who don't know each other. I've read about time slips, astral projection, and dimensional shifts, but none of these seemed quite right, as I did not experience any loss of time or consciousness, and at no time did I ever feel like anything was off or out of the ordinary. In fact, I'm just as terrified to hear that I disappeared as much as the people who claim to have witnessed it. So if anyone could tell me what the heck is going on, it would be quite helpful. For the record, I'm in perfect physical and mental health. I've never seen a ghost or UFO or Bigfoot, have no special supernatural talents or psychic abilities, and I don't drink or use any drugs, prescription or otherwise. While I'm sorry that I can't directly help you, I could suggest the best fitting thing is a dimensional shift, because you're out of phase with other people. In video game terms, there's servers, hard-coded servers that are separate, And then there's layers on that server, which you could think more of as dimensions, where the server is the same for everyone, but the layer of that server is different. So it's like a partition of the server. It sounds like you're shifting between partitions of the same server and coming back. Now, why you would be doing this, I have no clue at all. And you would think that you would feel something, but maybe not. That's the best theory I have, but it doesn't quite fit perfectly. And mostly because why is that happening? Specifically to you and no one else. Case file number 2530, written by Cambo. Red hair, glasses, nightmare fuel. This happened on April 28th, 2024, around 3 in the morning. I had just left my bathroom and was walking back to my room when I saw my brother standing in the hallway maybe 3 feet away from where I was standing. He was standing slightly crouched with his hands up, in a way where it looked like he was going to try to scare me. Which isn't something that's unlike him, since he's always trying to scare me. I said something about being able to see him, but he didn't respond. He did move a tiny bit closer, though. I couldn't fully see him because it was late at night, and all of the lights in my house were off. But I knew it was him because I could see his red hair, his glasses, and he was smiling. I backed up towards my room and called out to him again. But once again, he didn't respond. He just moved slightly closer. I could see his legs moving, so I quickly opened my door and turned on my light. Without breaking eye contact, only for him to completely disappear, I walked to the living room where I found my brother passed out on the couch. If he had been standing in front of me, as our floors are very creaky, there's no way he could have made it back. The next day I asked him about it and he insisted he had no idea what I was talking about. To this day, he doesn't fully believe me, and insists he wasn't the one standing in front of me that night. Case file number 2531, written by It's a Fish 20. Apparently I blinked and installed a weather app? I woke up at 4:45 this morning and just laid in bed, because my alarm was 10 minutes away, and I just wanted to lay comfortably for a few minutes awake before going to shower. I know I was awake. I was petting my dog's head the whole time the event happened. As I was laying there, I blinked and saw a heads-up display appear over my left eye, showed a little digital clock showing the time and temperature, and had a ticker showing what the day's weather was going to be. I closed my left eye, and it was not in my right eye vision, so it did the opposite and closed the right eye, and it was back. I watched the time change to the next minute, and then rubbed both my eyes and got up. And when I opened them again, it was gone. Now we have an old, round, analog wall clock in our room, and my wife and I both keep our phones charging in the kitchen. So it's not like I was getting a reflection from something, and our TV was off too. This is such a unique glitch. You had some kind of error in your brain that caused it to manifest a heads-up display, like an Iron Man within his suit, only just for one eye though. I don't know what could cause that, just besides some malfunction in your brain, but it doesn't really sound like anything normal could cause that. Maybe a slight glimpse into the real world. Case file number 2532, written by Leading Struggle 5451. Pain, pills, and a mysterious chauffeur. In 2010, I suddenly got a migraine that lasted 2.5 months. To preface, I was 37 at the time, married, homeschooled my 2 kids, didn't drink, didn't do drugs of any kind. I took a group of kids to a concert, and the next night I felt like a headache was coming on, so I took some Tylenol. I never get headaches. In fact, up until that point, the last headache I remember having was when I was a teenager. I also haven't had one since this incident. The intensity was increasing, so I took even more Tylenol. A couple hours later, I took a leave, then aspirin. I figured this was triggered by the spring cleaning, aka stirring up dust, I'd been doing, or possibly even from the concert, although I had always been a frequent concert goer, still. Maybe a little both? I went to bed early, thinking a good night's sleep will fix it. It did not. The next morning, my headache had intensified, to say the least. I can only describe it as it felt like someone squeezing my brain, wringing it out like a kitchen sponge, and this was constant, it never stopped. less than 24 hours from the onset, and I couldn't eat, sleep, or stand up for longer than a few seconds. Oddly enough, bright lights and loud noises didn't bother me, but that's probably because my pain was consistently above a 10, so anything above that probably wouldn't have been noticeable. I went to multiple doctors and specialists, who performed many tests, including a spinal tap. 0-10 do not recommend. But every test and scan was normal. I made 3 trips to the ER, but apparently hospitals won't admit just for pain management. So I was always sent home with a cocktail of various pills that did absolutely nothing except fluck me up to the point I would pass out, which may have been the ER's intent. For the first couple of weeks, I thought I was dying. After the 3rd week, I prayed I was. I had never experienced anything even remotely close to this level of pain in my life, not before or after. And it should be noted that I gave birth 100% naturally. I had also passed a kidney stone I didn't know I had that was about half the size of a pencil eraser, at home, without any type of pain reliever. Just to give you all an idea of my tolerance level. I was diagnosed as having a migraine of unknown origin. As much as I wanted an accurate diagnosis, I wanted relief even more. I had lost 30 pounds from not eating, and when I was able to eat, I wasn't able to hold it down. The doctors in my area pretty much said they couldn't help me anymore. They were frustrated that their tried and true methods didn't even touch my pain, and I'm sure some of them thought I was faking, although no one ever said that to me. I hurt so bad I just wished for death. I swear I'm getting to the glitch. I just wanted to give some backstory and the surrounding circumstances, so y'all have a complete understanding of the entire event. 2 months in, and my mom had found a doctor who specializes in migraine treatment and management. I called for an appointment, and they wanted to see me that afternoon. Their office was about 40 miles away. My husband couldn't leave work, my kids weren't driving yet, and my mom lived in the same town as a doctor, so there wasn't enough time for her to come pick me up. I had to drive myself. Note, I hadn't taken any meds since around 9 p.m. the night before, which was about 15 hours prior. I drove a Saturn Vue, which is an SUV. I went by myself and never thought twice about it. Here's the thing though. About 15 miles into the trip, I felt like I blacked out because the pain was just so intense. I don't think I ever actually lost consciousness though, because I was driving. Then I was suddenly in the very back of the vehicle, laying down. I don't recall crawling back there, and I certainly never pulled over and stopped. These were country roads though, and I remember sort of coming to and looking out the windows. I could see the trees as I passed by. At some point, I sat up and saw my mom's friend's house, and noticed that her car wasn't there and her yard needed to be mowed. I laid back down, and the next thing I remember is parking at the doctor's office. I was driving again. I didn't tell the doctor because I was afraid he'd think I was crazy, especially since no one could pinpoint the cause of my migraine. I told my mom, and it worried her because I guess she thought I was crawling around inside my vehicle, when I should be paying attention to the road. My husband was always an inconsiderate dick, so he didn't believe me. Ex-husband now. So I just stopped sharing my story with him. I knew how fantastic it sounded, and I knew people would think I was hallucinating due to the pills or the pain. And maybe I was, I don't know. But what I do know is my memory of riding in the back of that SUV so I could rest, while someone or something else did the driving. That memory is so incredibly vivid, and likely saved my life. While I have heard of disassociation, creating a different character that isn't real, it's just you, but you're imagining yourself in different areas, it's the Fight Club effect. I don't know if it goes to that extreme extent, and maybe extreme pain could cause this, but it does seem rather fantastical beyond the realm of what normally happens. Certainly your body behaved in a way that is unusual and beyond the pale. And also just to say, as someone who does suffer from migraines, it's more the eye-grain thing, where you get a visual aura and then the pain sets in after for a few hours, sometimes a day. For me, it never lasted more than like a day, and during that time, it's just excruciating pain, so I know exactly what you're talking about. But to have it last for months, I don't even want to imagine that. I'd rather go play around in Hellraiser's Pinhead's playground than experience that, Even he couldn't devise pain that extreme for that long. God. Case file number 2533, written by Acrobatic Repeat 657. When you realize you're the player, not the hamster. I was sober, awake, quiet. I sat down, did nothing. Just observed. And suddenly there was this moment where I no longer knew whether I was observing thoughts or whether something else was observing me thinking. It was quiet, not quietly quiet, but fundamentally quiet. As if someone had paused the background music of existence. I saw my mind jumping around like an overexcited hamster, and I was not the hamster. I was like looking at the hamster. After that, everything felt briefly wrong. Not creepy, more like I saw through everything, like a game I'd forgotten to play. I'm not trying to prove anything here. Just saying, maybe the real glitch is not when the world flickers or if you lose an item, but when you suddenly know you're in the world. Yes, I know, I might need some fresh air or a sandwich. Both are planned. Hey, questioning your sense of reality and your place in the world and the universe, perfectly valid. No doubt about that. Case file number 2534, written by Old Gods Awaken. Buzzing, humming, hovering. It was about 5 years ago now. I was at work as a caregiver for the disabled. For context, I should say that I live in a pretty rural area of western Ohio. Think small towns and cornfields. I normally got there at about 7:30 p.m., which was a half hour before my shift, so I could get the day's rundown from the previous caregiver. We were sitting on the porch swing, talking and smoking a cigarette, when we noticed a couple lights moving through the sky, above the field directly in front of us, across the street. We stepped off the porch and looked up to see what it was, since there were no airports or helicopter landing sites nearby. As we walked across the street to the field, we could see that there were 3 lights, just white lights, no colors or anything, and they looked to be on the bottom of something shaped like a pyramid. The pyramid was moving towards us pretty slowly, and then sped up until it was directly above us, and then dropped straight down, maybe 100 feet or so, and hovered there for a full minute. My coworker and I were at the point of freaking out and taking video on our phones, which of course was lost at some point after I accidentally washed my phone, and trying to zoom in to see what the hell it was. The thing I remember the most about it was the sound it was making. Just thinking about it while typing this has made the hair on my arms stiff. I don't know how to describe it except that it was high and low pitched at the same time. A mix between humming, buzzing, and vibrating. I've never heard anything like it before or since. After a minute or so, it rotated slightly, rose straight up in the air, and took off toward the right of us so fast we couldn't even see it within about 5 seconds. I have no idea what I saw, but I saw it, and I will always pay extra attention to the sky at night now. Understandable. Case file number 2535, written by Dev Network Specialist. When the lights went out, and so did reality. I'm a regular gym person and was at the gym yesterday. Most times I see the same people, as if we have the same schedule. I go in the gym and see the same people, small gym, 3 other people I know that go regularly. But this time there was a family dad, mom, son, aged like 20, with their child, maybe 6 years of age. They were taking it easy, talking and experimenting with the weights and techniques, while the child kept interrupting their mom about this or that. Just a normal, loud, energetic kid, trying to touch everything. Here's where it gets very odd. I was on the cable machine working on shoulders. Just an easy day to stretch, facing the window. And when I rotate after 10 reps, 20 seconds, I face the gym, then rotate again, facing the window, etc. I had 10 minutes but 20 minutes left. I had earplugs with low music playing, so I can hear what the family was talking about and doing, since I was interested about their goals since I'd never seen them. I face the window and start my reps. 1, 2, 3. I can hear the child scrambling, annoying his mom, and the dad talking to the mom about how to lift the dumbbells. I'm on rep 7, 8. Then poof, power out, lights out, fans off, very noticeable. But at the exact same time, the family and child noise went out, as if it was a TV show playing on the background. And as soon as the power goes out, the TV also is turned off, and the TV show. Thought it was odd, but I finished my last 2 reps, 9, 10, like in 3 seconds, and turn around immediately to see why the family all of a sudden just went silent, right as the power went out. When I turn around to see, there was no family whatsoever. The weights they had on the ground were not on the ground, but put back on the racks. I looked around, even walked to the hallway where the exit is, walked outside and nothing, no one. It will take time to put the weights back, walk to the hallway, to the exit door, and walk out. No way in hell, in 3 seconds, can anyone do that. Even to get to the exit from where they were, sprinting, it will take at least 10 seconds. If someone were to sprint fast and exit and close the door, there was no family anywhere. I came back in the gym and looked at the other gym members if they were confused or in shock. But not at all. They kept doing their normal routine as if nothing had happened. The lights were still off, and I had a very bad, strange feeling when I looked at their faces, and how they were exercising. It was like they became robots. Or like if I wasn't supposed to be there, or they couldn't see me. I got the frick out of there and walked home fast. Crap got me feeling off and I couldn't sleep. This might have been a transition stage, where you're moving to a different universe, but you're in limbo, kinda limbo. I like to call them dead servers, although usually there aren't more people there. Maybe everyone else was in limbo stage, transition stage with you as well, besides the family. But what would have taken you out in the originating universe? Did a meteor crash on your specific spot? Now time for the jokes of the day. My girlfriend borrowed $100 from me. After 3 years, when we separated, she returned exactly $100. I lost interest in that relationship. My girlfriend said, "You act like a detective too much. I want to split up." "Good idea," I replied. "That way we can cover more ground." I accidentally gave my wife a glue stick instead of her lipstick. She still isn't talking to me. I went on a job interview. The interviewer asked, "What is your greatest weakness?" I replied, "I'm too honest." The interviewer said, "I don't think honesty is a weakness." I said, "I don't give a fluck what you think." Excessive honesty is perhaps a weakness. I went on a couple dates with a pirate. At first I was skeptical, but then I spent a night in bed with her. That's when I was hooked. Yar, matey. Like the video, subscribe, hit the bell. Kinetic Symphony, signing off.